And on behalf of the Mariano's team, I am so delighted, thrilled, and honored to welcome you to another edition of the Women in History Month Wine Hangs. I just gave it that name. It's not the official name, but it's what it feels like to me, the best kind of hang where we can stay safe and we can sip together, have a lot of fun, learn, and support these epic women winemakers. We have two of them today. How lucky are we? I also just want to let everyone here know that we are streaming live to Facebook. So I do like to advise if you're supposed to be like in a work meeting or something right now, you might want to go camera off right away and change your name. Otherwise, your boss does know that you're blowing off a meeting to sip wine with us. I also want to share my favorite way to watch these Zooms, and that's with going up to the view in the top right and watching in gallery so that you can see everyone's beautiful faces. Otherwise, you'll only see the faces of the people who are speaking in the moment. Not that I don't love that you want to watch my face, but sometimes it's a lot of fun to see everyone in the gallery together. I think those are all my tips and tricks for enjoying this. I mean, of course, the other part of this is hopefully you've got frickin' something delicious in your glass, and hopefully it starts with the letter J, because we're going to be tasting two of these wines together. And I want to introduce, without any further ado, our two amazing wine gals who are with us from California. But I'm going to start with Nicole Hitchcock, who is here with me. Nicole, tell me everything. Where are you? What's going on? How you feeling?
I am feeling jazzed. It's great to be here. Thank you for having us. Right now, I am sitting at J Vineyards and Winery. I'm looking out over our beautiful bottling line and enjoying a really gorgeous spring day here at the winery. The sun is shining in California. The skies are blue. We've got buds breaking out in the vineyards. It's really exciting and glad to be here. So thank you.
Yay, so fun. So what we're hoping to do today, of course, is to have something delicious like this. I just poured the 2019 Pinot Gris because we've got a white and a red to taste today. I figured we should start with the white. I mean, I feel like we should do a little toast first, and then I want to hear a little bit about your journey and how you come to be making this delicious wine. Should we do a toast first, Nicole and Victoria and everyone?
Let's do a toast.
So, cheers to these great women in wine, make these delicious things for us to drink, and Mariano's for bringing us together. That's good. Before we talk about what we're tasting here, will you tell us a bit about the J Vineyards brand and also how you got connected with them and why we're tasting this delicious wine that you had a hand in making, a very big hand, the hand in making.
Most definitely. Yeah. So just to introduce myself, I'm Nicole Hitchcock. I am on the winemaking team here at J Vineyards and Winery. I've been at J for about 6 years, almost on the dot. And for those of you who don't know us too well, we are a sparkling dedicated winery, as well as we make some really world-class Pinot Noir, obviously some Pinot Gris, Rosé, and so much more. We've got a portfolio of about 30 different wines. So this is just a small little sampling of what we do. And then a quick history of J. We were founded in 1986 by a woman named Judy Jordan, hence the name J, if you're wondering where that comes from. And so, you know, she set her sights on creating a world-class sparkling wine house before it was even a thing in California. In the 80s, it was not, you know, sparkling wines were not widely made in California. And so she really brought this amazing vision to fruition from there. And so here we are, you know, 30 plus years later, and we've got this great portfolio, beautiful winery, amazing culinary program here at the winery. So there's lots of exciting things going on at J.
We're going to hear more about that soon, the culinary, because I like to talk about the food too. But Nicole, so how do you, what was your journey? What was your path to becoming winemaker at J Vineyards?
Yeah, so I grew up on the Central Coast in California, in Carmel by the Sea, a very food and wine oriented area, and so I worked in restaurants growing up, and started serving wine before I had any idea what it was all about and really what I was talking about with respect to wines. But it's what got me intrigued and interested, and I realized there was this whole world that I wanted to explore, that had to do with wine, and so many different avenues that I could go down within the wine business. So with that initial intrigue, I went to UC Davis and studied winemaking there. And so from there, I set forth on a career in winemaking. I've done a harvest in Australia. My first harvest was actually making small lot Pinot Noir and Chardonnay in Southern Napa Valley. And then I've worked in wineries kind of all sizes and scales and locations in California since then, and just happy to be here at J.
So cool. And there's another woman who we have here from J that I'm so excited to chat with as well today. Victoria, will you tell us a bit about your J story?
Yeah, so I've been here at J now for about 2.5 years, and I'm the associate winemaker here.
That's so great. I mean, I feel the girl power and I love it. I feel like I can smell it and taste it. And I mean that in the best way in the glass. But if you're tasting along with us today, we are starting with this Pinot Gris. Nicole, can you tell us a little bit about the grape and how it acts in California? And if there are any sort of like specificities of dealing with it in California? I mean, a lot of people drink Pinot Grigio. I always think it's very interesting when a winery chooses to bottle this grape, and whether they choose to bottle it as Pinot Grigio, which most people know about, or bottle it as Pinot Gris, which not as many people I feel know about. Tell us about that.
The grape is exactly the same that creates Pinot Grigio or Pinot Gris, and it's really kind of a stylistic choice of what avenue you want to go down as a wine producer, of whether or not you want it to be more Grigio in style or more Gris. California is a great location for growing Pinot Gris. Mainly because we can get it nice and ripe with so much fruit expression. We've got this amazing sunlight, and especially out here on the coast where J is located, we've got these beautiful warm days and cool nights, so the grape is able to retain its gorgeous acidity that it's really well known for. And so when I think of Pinot Gris versus Pinot Grigio, the best way to explain it is, for the Pinot Gris, it's still crisp, it's still bright, but there's an oily texture to it. And with this Pinot Gris in particular, it's a lot of tree fruit. There's some apple, there's some pear, some citrus notes, but also some floral cues as well. And it's got this bright, lifted, just kind of brightness to it, but again with that oily texture. Versus a Pinot Grigio, which I would explain has less of the oiliness, is more straightforward, also has the brightness, the acidity, but maybe not as much fruit, and is more in kind of a savory camp of characteristics. Of course, these are generalizations, but that's how I like to delineate the two of them in my mind.
I mean, I love this. I worked in an Alsace chef-run restaurant for many years in Manhattan called The Modern. And so I was swimming literally in Pinot Gris every day because it's such a great food wine, but also because I love that style. What happens when you take this grape and do something like this to it? Victoria, maybe can you speak to a little bit about, are there any specificities? We're gonna get a little geeky. I see a couple wine geeks in the audience here who come every week and I love it. Daryl, I see you. Are there any specificities for when you're trying to make the Pinot Grigio / Pinot Gris grape into this style of wine, in terms of what to do with harvesting and what to do in the winery once you get to vinification?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the key things about what allows us for our Pinot Gris to keep that really fresh flavor, but then also those nice, that honeysuckle and tangerine and pineapple that you get on the aroma, is all of our fruit is hand-picked. So we pick at night when it's and it's cold, when it's cold, and those hand-picked grapes come to the winery, and we are pressing and then fermenting in stainless steel and fermenting at a cooler temperature so we can help retain all that natural acidity, but then also that fruit character that you get in the ferment. And then, you know, the joy really becomes then in the blending process, right? Of taking all the legs that we get during harvest and trying to create a wine that is fruit forward, but then also balances that nice crisp acidity. So, I mean, Nicole did a great job describing the wine. For me, I think what I love the most about the Pinot Gris is that it's an awesome standalone wine, along with being just a great food wine too. But there's not a lot of sometimes Pinot Gris, right? Where you almost, because they are so acidic, like, and so citrus based, like you want to accompany them with food. Whereas I feel like our Pinot Gris really allows you to be versatile in doing both.
I love it. I mean, the expression in this glass is so gorgeous. I'm getting all those fruit notes that you all talked about. I mean, it's juicy already kind of on the nose. You know what's going to come when you taste it. And Nicole, speaking to that texture, that oily texture, that glycerin, I think it's really a gorgeous wine that is going to be delicious with whatever leftovers I warm up after this.
Yeah,
for dinner.
definitely.
So Nicole, do you have sort of a special list of dishes that you think are killer and that you love to recommend for this wine?
Definitely. Well, let me first say that this is my house white wine, and not just at my house, but my entire family. I've become known in the J tasting room as picking up case after case after case of this Pinot Gris for family members because they just can't get enough of it. So, with or without food, it's definitely makes a regular appearance in our household. In terms of pairing suggestions, I mean, it's such a versatile wine. It can really go with a lot of different dishes. I love it, especially as we get into the springtime and the summertime season with different types of tartars. So a tuna tartare, ceviches are amazing. We've got this amazing here in Sonoma County. We've got this amazing Peruvian restaurant that my husband and I like to do takeout. And they've got the best ceviche. This goes perfectly with it. But I also think it goes nicely with some creamier dishes as well. So I love this with a nice like pasta Alfredo with maybe some shrimp, some seafood included, because I think it just cuts through that creaminess so well and just lifts up the brightness of the dish.
Yeah, the acidity on this wine, the balance is really perfect. I mean, and all the poke bowls, right? Like how everybody loves a poke bowl. This is a great wine for that. Whereas maybe like a Chardonnay might be slightly too rich or not have the acidity to deal with that. This is such a great expression of Pinot Gris. Before we move on to the red, which is also a food terminator wine, like so good with everything Pinot Noir. What other white wine grape varieties do you guys have and do you work with?
Chardonnay is our other big varietal, and we make 5 different Chardonnays, mostly from Russian River, but we also do a triappolated blend from California, which is delicious. And so really that's our other white specialty. It's Pinot Gris and Chardonnay.
So fun. I mean, these are all the elegant grapes, we're not necessarily looking for that like punch you in the nose kind of style of wine. These are the ones that have a lot of finesse and I think take a little more skill with the winemaking. I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
Well, I would say that is kind of our house style. I love the word finesse because, we do a broad range of different stylistic expressions, especially when we're talking about Chardonnay. And we actually do another Pinot Gris in-house as well. But each of them has their own stylistic factors, their own finesse and personalities. So there really is something for everybody.
Very cool. Well, I'm going to continue sipping on this. Listen, I've got 2 wines, so I've got 2 glasses and I'm ready to move on to the Pinot Noir. I don't know, Victoria, do you want to start us off? I don't remember the last time I had a delicious California Pinot Noir, not because I've had non-delicious California Pinot Noirs. I just haven't had a lot of California Pinot Noir during the pandemic. So Victoria, maybe you can just kind of speak to Pinot Noir in California in general, and then we can talk about the J. Pinot?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, no, pour your glass of this amazing Pinot Noir. So, I mean, here at J, we have a handful of Pinot Noirs. The one that we're tasting today is our California, our multi-appellated Pinot Noir. But then at the winery, we also have some single vineyard Pinot Noirs. And I think probably the most fun thing about making Pinot Noir is just how true to the site of where it's grown at showcases how it is in the bottle is just really, really amazing. And so for this triappolated Pinot, it's really about sourcing from within California some of the best growing regions for growing Pinot Noir. So depending on the year, it's usually a balance of 3 different areas and different percentages, again, depending on the vintage. But it's usually Monterey, sourced from Monterey, Sonoma, and Santa Barbara, and all those different regions within California all bring different layers and complexity to the blend. And so from the Monterey region, you're getting nice, fresh, dark fruit. From Sonoma, you're getting like nice cherry cola and pink cherry, and then the Santa Barbara, you're getting almost like that spice swap. So it's a fun blend to make, again, because it's really showcasing all these amazing regions within California for Pinot Noir growing.
Well, first of all, I just learned a word, triappolated. I'm going to try to use that in a sentence as many times as possible today and moving forward, because I do love it. And thank you so much for sharing the personality of the grapes from each of the 3 appellations, because I love to sound like I know what I'm talking about when I'm drinking wine. I mean, I really should, because that's my profession, but I think it's really fun for people when they can do that sort of once we get to be table side again and put their nose in and say, wow, I really get that cherry or that cola. And that really speaks to the Santa Barbara component in this triappolated Pinot Noir. Did you all write that down so you can impress your friends for when you order this at a restaurant when you get out there again? I mean, everyone's going to think you're like some winemaker or something. That's super fun. But Nicole, I mean, this thing, whoo, it smells so good. What are some of the aromas that you find that we should be finding when we put our noses in, and some of the kind of descriptors on the palate from your perspective?
Right. I get a little bit of everything that I love in Pinot Noir from this glass, and especially in the aromatics. I mean, right off the bat, I get a touch of a floral note, and by floral, I'm talking about more in the rose petal type of camp that Pinot Noir can often express. But there's also a touch of an earthiness and a savory character as well. And in my mind, a lot of that comes from the Santa Barbara County fruit. But I also get kind of a jamminess, kind of a red jam, almost towards a dark jamminess in the aromatics. So it's a nice ripe profile of fruit without being, overdone. It's still elegant, but I think it demonstrates the California ripeness that we can get really, really well. And then in terms of texture on the palate, again, it has that elegance, it has that finesse. But it also has some nice firm tannins that I think hold up really nicely when it's paired with food, and also will help it age very gracefully.
It's also maybe a little too easy, because I'm going to top up right now. Wow. I mean, this is so beautiful. And, this is just my opinion, but I feel like Pinot Noir is, well, and other people have said this, Jancis Robinson says that Pinot Noir is a minx of a vine and such a diva. I think it's one of the hardest grape varieties to make into a beautiful wine. Like, it's a very cantankerous grape, isn't it really?
Yeah, it is. It can be fickle, for sure, and it's also complicated because of all these different growing regions that we're growing the grapes in, right? So, when we talk about the triappellation, it's not just we happen to be sourcing fruit from Santa Barbara County and Monterey and Sonoma. We're extremely thoughtful about each of these sites and the farming at each of the sites. And then again, how that all of those sites come together as grapes and then ultimately as wine in the glass. It is It is a labor of love, every vintage. Victoria can attest to that. We spend a lot of time on this blend and making sure that it comes together seamlessly. So I'm glad you're enjoying it, and I'm glad that it's going down easy.
I think what's so fun is that, winemakers to me are scientists, of course, right? Because there is a technical side to making these wines, but they're also artists as well, because there are so many different styles in which you can go and directions in which you can go. I think it's so much fun to chat with you about this. Okay, so we do have a couple questions. So Daryl has a question, but maybe we'll answer it for both Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. He wants to know about oak regimens for your Chardonnays, but maybe you could answer that for Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, and also mallow regimens. But maybe first we should break that down for everyone. So oak regimens, winemakers can choose to age their wines in contact with oak, that magic stuff. It's like, how much pumpkin spice are you going to put in? How much of that do you want in your wine? And then also mallow regimen is malolactic fermentation. So that's converting malic acids, which are quite tart, into lactic acids, which make a wine kind of have a buttery texture. And so those are the questions we're asking. I don't know who wants to answer that, Nicole or Victoria, but whoever would like to, please go for it.
Have at it, Victoria.
Alrighty. So starting with the Pinot, we do go through 100% malolactic, and then the wine is aged in a percentage of barrels, but then also some staves. And so depending on the vintage, we're around, let's say 20% new barrel. So it's really a combination. And again, it depends on the vintage and how the fruit can handle the oak. And then the same with the Chardonnay, where it's a balance of a percentage of barrels that we're aging in, and in the Chardonnay specifically, we're actually fermenting in those barrels, so that oak becomes very integrated in the Chardonnay.
I have sort of like a pandemic specific question, just like toilet paper has been intermittently impossible to get, and some other weird products. Like for me, it's been very hard to get glass vials that are 2 ounces, because all the bars and everyone is competing to get those to package cocktail kits and things like that. Has there been any difficulty sourcing any particular things that you need to make wine?
Yeah, so I mean, we've been really lucky in that at the start of all this, which is crazy to think that it's been a year, very proactive in kind of seeing that demand and working with our vendors to ensure that we had a lot of the things that we need, whether it be ingredients during harvest or barrels. And then that goes into this harvest. We actually are going to be starting to order ingredients and starting to think about harvest, which isn't too far away. So again, getting all those things lined up now so that they don't they're not a problem later on with getting those things. So you got to hoard your toilet paper when it's at the store, is basically.
But you have enough at the winery, so we don't need to like send any your way if we want to help.
So far.
Hoard wine and not toilet paper. Smarter.
Thank goodness. Well, Nicole, we have a couple questions about food pairing. So I'm going to give you 2 of them. Which wine goes best with a Caesar salad between these 2? Would you prefer a Pinot Gris or a Pinot Noir? And then for some of the favorite Easter things like lamb, ham, and salmon, what is your preference? I think both of these are great, but I'd love to hear which one you would be your go-to between the Pinot Gris and the Pinot Noir for those things.
Right. For the Caesar salad, if it's just a straight Caesar salad, no like meat additions or anything like that, I would absolutely go for the Pinot Gris. And I'd probably go for the Pinot Gris anyway. I think that would be actually quite a nice pairing. Just bright, refreshing, delicious. And I love a good Caesar salad. And then for Easter pairings, man, I would have a bottle of each of these on hand, to be completely honest, because I think the Pinot Gris is great, just kind of as if you need an aperitif to your to either your brunch or your dinner. Fantastic. And I think this would go really nicely with salmon or whatever you're doing. But if you're moving into lamb or some of those heavier dishes, the Pinot Noir is absolutely the way to go.
This is just a good 1-2 punch to have on the table, right? Because when you have a lot of family, there's those set of people that are like, well, I only drink white, or I only drink red. You might as well just have.
Oh, and we forgot about one other addition as well that we're not tasting right now, and that is a sparkling wine. We also, I mentioned we're very well known for our sparkling wines, and so you can look for that as well. We've got a J California Cuvée and Cuvée 20 sparkling. They're brut style, delicious, and they will go with every single course of either your Easter meal or any other holiday, or just a regular weeknight dinner for that matter.
I love that. I mean, those sparkling wines, I feel like I've poured them by the glass in just about every restaurant that I've overseen a wine list in. So I will attest, those are incredible. The Brut, the original, is so good. And I had a chance to try the new one. So good. All right. So we've all got a little wine. Now we're having fun. And now we have some ideas about what to order for dinner, make for dinner, or to eat. I mean, if you don't want to just have wine for dinner, but I thought it'd also be fun to just kind of talk about sort of career stuff, because I love seeing women in charge and a little kind of like mentorship, I think, happening here. Nicole, can you kind of tell us, what do you sort of perceive as challenges these days for women in wine, and or has there been sort of anything you've learned along the way that help you to get such a prestigious position with such a killer winery? How'd you do it? How do we all do it? How do we help others do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, there's one word when I talk about my journey, I think it's perseverance. I think the challenge of entering the wine industry, and specifically in a winemaking or a production type of role, which hasn't traditionally been very female dominated, is you've got to be persistent. You've got to have a vision. You've got to be focused on where you want to go, because it's not necessarily easy. For me, I grew up very traditional childhood, but I wasn't super mechanically inclined, and I didn't I didn't know how to fix cars with my dad, and how to get in and tinker with equipment and things like that. And once you set foot in a winery for the first time, for your first internship or your first real-time job, you quickly realize that that's a skill set that you're kind of going to need. And so it's not always easy to jump into that environment, especially when you're around a lot of males who may have grown up with that skill set. So being focused, persistent, and really having a vision of the way that you want to go, I think is really important.
I love that. I think people don't realize like how physical winemaking is too. I mean, pumping, racking, like every single term, which always sounds nicer in French, remouage and dégorgement and all that. There's a lot of like, you need screwdrivers, you need to know all the different kinds, you need to know how to do all the different things and be handy with a shovel too, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. You got to be ready for everything. And I think that's why I love winemaking so much, is that you're never doing the same thing every day. And you get to use all different parts of your brain to do the physical stuff, to do the mechanical stuff, to do the the tasting kind of stuff, and you're really in the center of all of it. Time spent in the vineyards, etc. It's all encompassing, and it never gets boring. And the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know.
Right. And we figure out what kind of heels you can wear in the vineyards. So
exactly.
So extra. So Victoria, what about for you, your journey to get to being on the winemaking team here at J? Were there a lot of women along the way? What was it like for you?
Yeah. And so, similar to what Nicole was saying, I mean, I think jumping into my first winemaking position, learning to drive a forklift and things like that were not things that I was expecting to do in life, but it's fun having and rewarding to have that hands-on winemaking piece of things. But for me, I'd say I came into the wine industry at an interesting time, in that there are a lot more women in the industry. I think when I started in my first position in the winemaking group, we were almost half women to men. So, I mean, I think that's really something about the times and how things are changing. But for me, I still think one of the gaps that we maybe see is seeing more women at more of that leadership position or higher position. And so for me, you know, in taking this role at J, it was getting the opportunity to learn from Nicole, not only as a winemaker, but also being a woman and leader in this industry. To learn from her, and then to also be a mentor for other women coming into the industry.
That's wonderful. Bravo. We love to hear that so much. I mean, if you go to any of those wine market council meetings, they always say that we drink more. So you know, we're buying and drinking a lot of that wine. So we should get to make it too. I mean, I have no desire to make it. I would just like to drink more.
We'll keep making it for you.
Totally.
So fun. So we do have a couple questions. There's one from Facebook. John would like to know, Nicole, can you discuss the difference between Brut, Blanc de Blanc, and Blanc de Noir?
Absolutely. So at J, we make actually 12 different sparkling wines if we're talking about different formats. So, you know, the typical format is in a 750 milliliter bottle, but we also do some magnums, which is pretty fun. But then we've got multiple different styles of sparkling within that range. And they range from extra brut, which is our driest sparkling, which means it has the least amount of residual sugar. It's nearly dry. It's the brightest. And then we move into brut style, which is can also be very dry, but it can also be up to approximately 12 grams per liter residual sugar, which is still definitely not perceptibly sweet, but there's a roundness to the palate, and it's not quite as bracing as when you're in the extra brut camp. And then you move on up in sweetness levels, and there's varying levels, but we also make a demi-sec, which is really, I think, really our only sparkling wine where there is a perceptible amount of sweetness, but at the same time, it's pretty balanced. It is not cloying by any means. It's just a touch sweeter. It pairs really nicely with cheeses and some of the desserts that we make. But then when we're talking about Blanc de Blanc versus Blanc de Noir, which we make both of those wines, the Blanc de Blanc is really white from white grapes. Mm-hmm. And so it is 100% Chardonnay as the base wine, and we're just trying to demonstrate Chardonnay in all of its beautiful purity. The Blanc de Noir is white from dark grapes. So we use both Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier in our Blanc de Noir blend. So it's always a combination of both of those, usually dominant Pinot Noir, but we've had vintages where we use up to 40% of Pinot Meunier as well. And so the resulting wine, it looks like white. There might be a tinge of kind of a pink color, but it's really not super perceptible. But you do get more red, kind of fruity characteristics that you would typically get from those varietals as they go into a sparkling wine.
Oh, it looks like maybe Belinda got stuck in the Wi-Fi universe. So I can jump in until she gets back. Well, John says that he always recommends the J sparkling wine. So great job.
Yay. We like that.
And Daryl wants to know if you've ever thought of sparkling the Pinot Gris, which was the first wine we tried today.
We have not, and there's a reason why. With our sparkling portfolio, we are, our identity is to be very traditional in terms of that approach. And by being traditional, we want to use those three really key champagne varieties, which is Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Pinot Meunier. So we have not traditionally included Pinot Gris in our sparkling wines. Other producers do it, and the wines are delicious, but that's just not within our vision and how we operate.
Great. Well, I did have a few questions, so it worked out for me that I get to talk to you guys for a few minutes. But so we have really great cheese departments at all the Mariano's stores, and as we're getting ready, for spring and entertaining, and things are loosening up here in Illinois, what cheeses would we recommend with both? Because I mean, we love all kinds of cheese, from soft to we crack wheels of Parmigiano Reggiano every month. So what would be like the best choices? Either one of you can go first.
Yeah, I'll jump in, and then Victoria, if you want to jump in as well. I mean, my first thought, I'm looking at this Pinot, and Manchego cheese goes so nicely with this Pinot, because there's that savory note to it. I think the texture is just right for tasting with a Pinot, with like kind of the earthy characteristics that you get from it, and some of the jamminess. It's just a beautiful match. I also love this Pinot Gris with goat cheese, and usually goat cheese like added to something, a beet salad, especially as we're heading into springtime and summer, but a beet salad with some goat cheese, and a little bit of olive oil drizzled over with the Pinot Gris, I think is a perfect match.
Yeah, I think the Pinot Gris actually would go really well with like a Manchego too, even with a nice quince paste, playing off some of that floral character and that you're getting from the Pinot Gris. And then for the Pinot Noir, I think a hard cheese, like even if it's a Pecorino or something, to kind of play out that earthiness would go well. But even like a soft cheese, like a brie or something, I think would really help with some of those tannins.
Right.
Would it also be really nice? So I don't think you can really go wrong with either of them.
Right. I mean, I'm playing with my Easter meal in my head, like what I want to serve everybody. And, we have, for some reason I've been craving like mortadella lately. And we have, really great mortadella. I think both would go well with that. And like the real rich, savory olives. We have, olive salads that are prepared, but like, the Castle Vetrano are my favorites. I keep envisioning like, these on my Easter table with all this great stuff. So
even some nice charcuterie for the smokiness with the Pinot would go really well too.
Delicious.
Mm-hmm.
And then my other question is, and Belinda is coming back, so you'll be saved from me. But I really do. I like this style of Pinot Noir is exactly how I like it. And Belinda knows, like, I like to. I'm so grateful that we're actually very good friends. So we taste a lot of wine together. And I'm always like, oh, I want to drill down. Like, I'm not as, you're a sommelier. Like, I want to be able to describe like every flavor I smell. And I kind of came up with my list, and I wanted you guys to tell me what if you think I'm right or not.
Oh, that's so good, Amanda. I love this idea.
Well, I mean, I think it's a lot of people ask, like when you're tasting wine, like, oh, it tastes like this. And, it's easy to say fruity or full or things like that. But, and I try not to read the label, because sometimes it'll say on here, like what it tastes like. I did get a lot of pear out of the Pinot Gris after I read the label. But I think I do smell that minerality. Like I smell like eucalyptus and herbs. Like it has like a really good nose. Like I do smell fruit, but I really smell like fresh herbs. And I think with like a lamb dish or some other like meat dish to have a lot of like herbs or peppercorns would be really good with this. So I'm getting a lot of that.
I love that. And I think that, a lot of that does come from all of the different regions that we're sourcing the grapes from. Because like Victoria said, with Pinot Noir, the grape is so reflective of the region or the site in which it's grown. And so when Victoria and I are assembling these blends in the end, we've got, how many different lots is it? It's, probably 60 plus, maybe more than that, different lots of Pinot Noir that we're considering for this blend. And each one of them is absolutely crazy unique. You would be astounded to taste them side by side. And so that is the fun part for us, because we get to assemble each of those unique legs into something that just comes together so gracefully, but also has elements of a lot of those characteristics. And those elements compare so beautifully with a variety of different foods.
So how do you know that? You just know like the way the grapes grow, or what do you kind of anticipate like what they're going to taste like and how they're going to blend together in advance?
We do, because we know these vineyard sites, and we know these regions, and what the what the profile of fruit and just general characteristics of the wine that region is going to create. And so we can anticipate that. We don't really know until
right.
are in the winery and they're fermenting or fermented. And we do a lot of tasting, and we do a lot of tasting over time. It's not one and done. We're tasting multiple times over a series of months, sometimes years, before we put these blends together to see how the wines are evolving and to put them together in the most harmonious way.
Well, this definitely is harmonious. I love it.
I also always thought that like the people who make sparkling wines are the smartest because they're trying to make something that tastes the same and smells the same every year, but they have to make a different recipe every year. So it seems to me that those are the winemakers that have to really understand the vineyard sites and the juice and what they're getting, because they have to get something different every year and make it into something that is the same. So I think that's like an ultimate challenge versus, people that are making still wine. They're making something that's an expression of the vineyard and an expression of the year.
Yeah.
Like what you do, Nicole, and your team does is a lot harder in some cases because you're making these sparkling wines. And to that end, we did have a couple other questions that I wanted to see if we could get answered. One was for another oak regimen question, again from Daryl, but like, do you have sort of a set oak regimen for each of the appellations then in the tri-appellated wines? Like, do you always know that Santa Barbara needs X versus, Sonoma needs Y or?
Victoria, do you want to take that one?
So
I'm passing her all the hard questions.
I love it.
Yeah, no, so chime in, Nicole, on your thoughts too. But we kind of balance for all those different areas, putting some of them on oak. So it's not where we're bringing in the Santa Barbara and we're not putting any of that that wine on oak. So it's really about when the grapes come in, even when we're going down to barrel, we're tasting those wines because, like Nicole said, we might have an idea of like an anticipation of what that fruit's gonna taste like, but until it goes into the winery and it's done, we don't really know. And so we're tasting before things go down to barrel and deciding whether or not the fruit, but then also the wine can handle, whether it's a new barrel or maybe we decide to go down to a neutral barrel. So meaning a neutral barrel, it would be a barrel that is 4 or 5 years old that doesn't have the same oak impact as a new barrel. So those are decisions that we're making as a team daily during harvest, tasting and kind of figuring out what it is that the wine will do best in.
I mean, it's so cool. It's like being a chef in a way, right? Like the tomatoes are really sweet right now, or they're not so sweet right now, but we still want to make a dish that our customers are going to love and recognize. Very cool. And then John, who's a big fan of your wines and the sparklings, especially, it seems, asks about over mallowed and over oaked Chardonnay and that style that used to be, California used to be known for. Do you guys have any thoughts about that? Although I think that's like a non-starter question for this winery and the style of this winery, because you guys never did that. But, do you have any feels about over the top, I call them slutty Chardonnays.
Yeah, Victoria, go ahead.
So I think it's about, for us as winemakers, it's really about staying true to the fruit and the site that we're picking from. So I think it's really, again, just a balance of what the fruit can handle. If the wine can handle some oak, then I think that oak ends up just enhancing that fruit character even more. It's amazing where, you can have something like a pineapple enhanced so much more with just a little bit of oak. But if the wine, if speaking to a Pinot, if it can't handle, if it's on the leaner side and doesn't have, as bright a fruit expression, then maybe we'll dial back the oak. So it's really just, again, for us, a balance.
That's super exciting. And so what should we look forward to for this upcoming year in wine and California wine and wines from J? What are we going to get excited for coming up?
Yeah, so I think for us, we're looking forward to the 2021 vintage, continuing to make true to style at here at J some amazing sparklings and Pinot Gris, Chardonnay, and Pinot Noirs. Here, once we can all travel and visit, we'd love for people to come and visit us at the winery. We have a Blanc de Blanc. I know there was a question asked about that. We have a Blanc de Blanc that just released a couple months ago, and so we're really excited about getting to share that. And then we have our Noir collection, which is a new line of Pinots, really showcasing site-specific Pinots. And so there's always different things happening. And so that's the fun thing about about winemaking is you never know day to day what new thing we're going to be doing.
So exciting. Well, we can't wait. We're going to charter a bus and we're just going to get out there. Right, Amanda? We just go. We probably have
Seriously, we are going to be in California this summer visiting family. So we're planning to come to the area. So I will make sure I look you both up.
Yes, come pay us a visit, definitely.
And Belinda, you're always welcome, to come with.
I feel like family. We've spent a lot of time together during this pandemic on screen.
My family, we all love Belinda, so let's all go.
Aww. Well, team from J, we've loved talking to you and learning more about these wines and also learning a little bit about the girl power journey for both of you. So thank you so much for sharing your art and your magic and these wines. I mean, I can't stop. I've refilled a few times. I mean, people get a little concerned, but here's the thing. I can drink a few bottles by myself. Don't worry. I'm still in good practice, even though I haven't been working the floor for quite a long time. So listen, the chats are still open. If you have any last minute questions for these brilliant winemakers, please get them in. But if not, on behalf of Mariano's and myself, I just want to say cheers to Victoria and Nicole and Ben and the team from J. We loved spending this hour with you. So fun. So delicious. Bravo.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers. We can't wait to have all of you in the stores where you're able to come and make visits. We'll organize something out here.
That would be outstanding. Yeah. This is one of the funnest parts of our job is actually getting to share what we spend all of our time making. So thanks for having us.
We love it. And there's so many fans in here. I'm seeing some nice comments from people that have been drinking along, which is always the right thing to do.
All right. Well, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lindsay's on. Thanks for helping us put it together, and we'll see everybody soon.